hello, everybody. Professor Andy Molnar welcoming you and wishing greetings upon you as we start the journey this term into project management and performance. At the graduate level, why? Why are we doing this, right? I think this cartoon says it all, and we'll unpack this a little bit over the next few slides just as a warm up to what we're about to get into during this term, right? As they say in the slide, the boss says to the employee, this is a major project of utmost importance, but it has no budget, no guidelines, no support staff, and hey, it's due in 15 minutes. At last, here's your chance to really impress everyone. It's funny, especially when you reflect on this slide at the conclusion of this short series. So, project management, right? What is a project? Well, there are two words I'm going to ask you to remember throughout this term. A project is temporary and unique. It's temporary, meaning that it'll have a beginning and an end date. It does not go on forever. And that it's unique in that the deliverable you're producing has never been done. It may be similar to something that you've done or a friend has done previously, but the stakeholders are different, the budget is different, the risk culture is different, even if only slightly, right? So every project is temporary and unique, and this is frankly what makes projects challenging. Just to note, a project is not operations, though both have this in common. Both are repetitive. Operations, maintenance, right, recurring things, these are things we do on a regular cycle. Sure, we'll have a problem. Sure, we're going to solve it. That's not a project. A project does use repetition, but it really only uses it to reach a point of stability in our deliverable. Once our deliverable is stable and we have this stability in performance, then we turn it over to operations or maintenance or the SOC center, wherever we're at. The other thing about projects is that they're meant to fill a gap. More on that in a minute. Basically, what's a project? It's temporary in its duration and it's unique in its deliverable. Now, all projects are working to create some deliverable. And by definition, we're going to call that right here a product, service, or result to produce some capability. That's the definition in a nutshell. Every project has attributes, whether it's an agile project or a waterfall project. More on that during the coursework, but every project is progressively elaborated. So as you learn more, right? Because remember, the project is unique. There are going to be some things we're not clear on. As we learn more, we incorporate it in it. Every project needs resources. Usually we have to borrow those, so that can be challenging. And every project has stakeholders, the customer being one of them. Now, that customer could be internal to the project or external. So what if that's a project? What's project management? Well, that's this course. Project management allows the project manager to apply your project management knowledge, the skills, these tools and techniques we're going to talk about to create this deliverable and, frankly, exceed stakeholder expectations. That's the goal here, right? Also realize that project management fills a strategic gap, right? So the company here will create a corporate strategy, usually a 3 to 5 year plan that they'll update every year. With that, they should create business documents, and then the project manager gets assigned. So your role is to take the company in some small way from its current state, CS, to its future state. Your project is filling that gap. And to do that, there are a lot of pieces that need to be integrated. That's why instead of calling you the project manager, I could just as easily call you the integration manager, because there's so many pieces to integrate to make this work. A project manager is an integration manager. It's why you are wholly responsible for the output of the project, because only you can integrate all those pieces. Now, you can make recommendations to your boss, but you will be making those recommendations. You take responsibilities for it. So, why all the full? What I really meant here was fuss about project management. So, why all the fuss? Well, I just touched on resource limitations, right? Every company has resource limitations. If you show me one that doesn't, I'd be surprised. There's also this need for increased accountability, largely based on these resource constraints, right? We have to have improved tracking. We need metrics to prove how we're managing them. We need financial controls for the budget so that we can, hey, produce the same deliverable or scope, the requirements, but yet at a reduced cost, right? And when I say resource management, I mean people and things, rent, electricity, the machinery, etc. It's also our role to make sure we have high worker morale. High morale, it builds high trust, and high trust builds high performing teams. This is where we want to get them to. We also work daily to reduce the complexity of all these tasks that we are integrating. Remember, we're integration managers. We also have a spirit of control. We look at the plan data and then we check it versus the actual data when it comes in. Like, we might have planned for an activity to take 1 week. In reality, it took 10 days, right? And what changes are needed? Because remember, the project is temporary and unique. We're trying to produce this stable, predictable deliverable. So we want to identify problems early. We want to recommend corrections. Basically, we are doing this. We are turning chaos into order in order to achieve that stable deliverable. That's what project managers do. There are lots of ways project managers can be successful. One way is called the triple constraint. The triple constraint is really managing three primary constraints in a triangle. We have scope, we have schedule, and we have our budget. Those are the three, hence the triple constraint. And if you change one, you'll have to change the other so that this triangle remains equilateral, equal sides, right? We satisfying the stakeholders. They know things will change. I've had projects fail, but I satisfied stakeholders and it was a success. Hitting quality standards that you've set. What about collecting requirements and then building to all the requirements? So we'll talk about tracing requirements, right? The number one reason projects fail is that either a requirement wasn't identified or it wasn't followed through, traced until the end. What about the schedule? You'll spend most of your time as project manager working the schedule, trying to finish on time. Of course, within budget or cost too, hence the iron triangle. And frankly, another form of success is, are you adding to the body of knowledge of your company? Now, just to show you the complexity that I'm talking about, look at what we might call the life cycle of a project manager as we work to turn chaos, I make up that term chaos, into order, right? Hence, the very first slide, hey, without any budget, without any resources, and I need it in 15 minutes, right? Turning chaos into order. We're going to assess the opportunity. We're going to initiate the project, collect our requirements, plan the project. Then we're going to execute, control it, and try and produce a deliverable. Remember, by definition, a project is temporary and unique. So we would expect closing at the end as well. Here's another picture of the same concept. As we work to turn chaos into order, from initiating the project all the way to closing, you can see it's not linear, right? I'll initiate the project while I'm also, notice this line is planning, while I'm also executing. Notice I'm still planning while I'm executing. Notice I'm controlling, this is the controlling line, while I'm planning and executing and closing as well. This really does represent the complexity of project management that you're working to integrate to produce this unique deliverable along the way. So, as you're working this deliverable, your number one job as you integrate is to make trade offs. What are you making trade offs on? Well, primarily the constraints, and there are many. Scope, schedule, cost, resources, risk, and quality are the key constraints that you're making trade offs on. I already mentioned another set of constraints, which was scope, schedule, and cost to keep them balanced. Another set of constraints would be resources, schedule, and cost to keep that balanced. The list can go on and on. The point is, know that there are constraints that you have to work with, and your job is to make trade-offs, right? To make this project happen. You can't just cut my budget and not expect it to impact my schedule, my resources, my requirements along the way. Now, this slide, as we wrap it up, is just meant as a summary. This takes us into the current PMBOK or project management body of knowledge. And basically, it's divided into three parts, right? This is part number one right here, where to start a project, right, I am going to get documents from the C-suite. I need to know what gap I'm filling from the current state to the future state. And then, of course, I want to choose my developmental cycle along the way. And so that developmental cycle that I'm talking about can be a predictive project. It can be an adaptive project, sometimes called agile, or it can be a hybrid of the two. And then further, project managers are going to develop a charter and then a plan. So we start here at the high level. We get some documents, we build a charter, then a plan, and as a result, we're able to produce our deliverables. Moving to the right side, these are some philosophical things that project managers need to do. And realize the whole time we are working with these core competencies. This is who we are so that we can achieve this objective. When we use these strengths, we can develop this project which can produce our deliverables along the way. Feel free to pause on that slide, take a look. Basically, you have this column here, column 1, you've got this column here, column 2, and then frankly, column 3 down the center, right? So it's really in 3 parts, but they're working together. I wanted you to be aware of that. And then finally, if you're looking for more information, feel free to go to pmi.org. Why are you taking this course? Well, another reason is by salary studies alone, project managers are highly paid. What does that mean? Can I guarantee your salary? I cannot. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm saying is businesses put money where they get the most bang for the buck. And as a result, they have put a lot of money into project managers. As a 5-year program manager, just 5 years in it, right? I was already making more than most of my engineers or technologists or web specialists. And so keep that in mind. Not that that we're not a team, we are. Not that their roles aren't critical, they are. But companies put money where they expect a big return. And so I can't guarantee your salary, but project management is everywhere. No matter where you go, location, part of it will be based on your experience, your skills, the industry like IT, etc. That's it. Project management performance. Let's get into it. I am Professor Andy Molnar. See you online.